Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to a new screencast lecture. Today's topic is important. It is called What is Science? Let's get started. Now, it may sound kind of like a silly question, but let's think about it. What is science? How would you define science if you were to just write down your definition? Don't look it up in a book. What do you think? Another thing to think about is, what do you think of when you hear the word science? Just kind of picture science in your mind. Close your eyes. What do you see? Many people, when they think of science, they'll think of a mad scientist wearing a lab coat, mixing chemicals, going, trying to take over the world. Doom for you, doom. Well, of course, there's more to science than just coming up with evil plans to take over the world. A good way to look at science is that science is a way to discover the truth. Now, notice that I say a way, not the way to discover the truth. One of the characteristics of being human is that for as long as there's been recorded history, people have been on a search for truth. They're looking for a way to understand the world in which they live in. Take a look at this picture. What could be a reason that these prehistoric people spent so much time, so much energy to paint these cave walls? Why would they do that? Could they be doing it just to express themselves with art and beauty? Could they be using it as a teaching tool to show young hunters where to hit that mammoth with that spear that they have, to help them understand, to better understand the world in which they live? And of course, you recall that I said science is a way to find the truth. Well, that means there's probably other ways. One way that people try to discover the truth is that we simply make assumptions. We believe some things because we were, quote, brought up that way. It's just what we've always known. Sometimes we rely on authority to know what's true. Your teacher tells you something, you probably believe it. Important people in the world, judges, politicians, scientists, they say things, we generally believe it. Authority. Over time, as you go through school, maybe you'll learn about logic, you'll learn about philosophy. Here you see, for example, Socrates. You may recall Socrates and the Greek philosophers. Socrates, Aristotle, Plato. Those are the three big guys from Greek philosophy. We may turn to religion and theology to find truth. Here you see two famous theologians, Martin Luther and John Calvin on the right. Those are all possible ways that people have and still do look to find truth and to understand our world around us. Science is one of those ways. Science is a way to understand the world using facts. In this picture, you'll see several famous scientists throughout history. Pause it here, see how many you can name. How many were you able to identify? Put your answer down below in the comments section. Let's start listing who you see on that chart. We just saw that science is a way to discover truth using facts. Well, before we go any further about what science can help us to answer, let's talk about some ways in which science is limited. What are some things that science can't answer? Making moral judgments. Making moral judgments like morality, like what should be, how we should act, things like that. That's kind of tricky when it comes to science. Science will help us to describe how the world is, but it cannot make judgments about whether that state of affairs is right, if it's wrong, if it's good or it's bad. What are some possible examples of this? Well, how about what rights should people have? Should animals have rights? Should we clone humans? Should we act to prevent the extinction of a particular species? These are moral questions that we can find information to support our arguments with science, but science doesn't determine for us. Another area where science might come short is in making aesthetic judgments. Aesthetics is about what is beautiful. Science can tell you the frequency of a sound, it can tell you how many hertz and how many decibels, things like that. It can tell you the color of somebody's eyes, but it doesn't judge if it's beautiful or if it's not beautiful. Some possible examples of this would be like listening to Beethoven's symphony. Is that something that is beautiful? Or is it just random noise? Is it something awful and painful to your ears? Some people like it, some people don't. Listening or reading a Robert Frost poem, how does it make you feel? A Jackson Pollock painting. I remember when I was a kid, when I saw this painting, I'm like, wow, that's something I could do myself. Is that something beautiful? Is that something that we appreciate? Let's take a look at Jason Pollock's paintings. Here's a clip. Another area would be with supernatural judgments. Well, by definition, supernatural explanations are beyond the realm of nature. It's, by definition, supernatural. Many of these questions are matters of personal faith or matters of spirituality. Some examples could be things like, does God or do gods exist? Do supernatural entities intervene in human affairs? Do fortune tellers really predict the future? Is there life after death? Now let's take a little bit more about what science is as well. Science isn't just memorizing facts. It's not just collecting data. It's not memorizing facts all the time. It's part of it, but that's not everything. Here's a quote. Science is built of facts as a house is built with bricks. But a collection of facts is no more science than a pile of bricks is a house. You can clearly see the difference between a pile of bricks and the house. Even though it's made out of the same stuff, different things. So what is the goal of science? To understand the world around us using facts. Example, the sun is a source of heat and light. That's a fact, right? Now we can go beyond that fact, though. We can think about how does this heat, how does this light affect us? How does this heat and light affect our environment? What else can we learn about this heat and light? We want to go beyond just that basic fact. Well, hopefully you'll give this a lot of thought as we move on to exploring science and the scientific method. We'll catch you next time. See ya.